Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Right from the start, this isn't just another courtroom formality. This is a victim impact statement. And unlike typical testimony, this is where raw emotion meets the limits of the law. Pay attention, because what's said here won't change the verdict, but it can shape the sentence.
Ms. Thompson, before you start, tell us your full name, please.
Amy Joe Thompson, Thompson.
Okay, and your relationship to Colton?
I am his mother.
Okay, I need you to sit up a little closer to the microphone and speak into it.
Judge Krug, as you can imagine, this is extremely difficult and certainly nothing I would ever have imagined I would have to do. I sit before you as a mother who has been grieving the loss of her son for over 4 years.
That line, not the case number, hits hard. This is a subtle but powerful criticism of the legal system. Trials often reduce victims' evidence, labels, or statistics. But here, she's reclaiming his identity. Question for you. Do courts do enough to humanize victims? Or is this gap unavoidable?
Colton was killed in one of the most unimaginable ways. I want to now tell you about my son, the person, not the case number or that guy, as so rudely referred to during the trial by the defense team. My son, Colton John Wright, was born on June 30th, 1997 in Danville, Illinois. He was my second child. He has an older brother, Clayton, who is also grieving immensely by the loss of his brother. When God gave me Colton, he immediately gave me a son that would soon become my constant sidekick. Everywhere I went, he went. Colton and I shared a bond that not many other mothers who I know share with their sons. From a young age, Colton was extremely smart. He was a great student and very gifted when it came to his knowledge about any type of electronics. He began having a love of anything motorized by the age of 3 years old. He loved four-wheelers, go-karts, golf carts, and vehicles of all types. He would drive down the highway and we would point out a vehicle and he could immediately tell us what type of vehicle it was. He was the go-to young man for so many people when it came to knowledge about electronics and vehicles. Colton was loved by everyone. When I say that, no truer words could be spoken. If he had enemies, I certainly didn't know it. Colton was a worker. He knew in order to have the things he wanted that he needed to work for those things. He had his own car detailing business at the age of 14, as well as his own lawn care business. He also bussed tables at the age of 14 at a local restaurant in our hometown.
Notice what she's doing here. This isn't random storytelling. In victim impact statements, painting a full picture of the victim's life can influence sentencing. The more the court sees the loss, the heavier the emotional weight. It's not evidence, but it's undeniably powerful.
His dad, stepdad, and I would take him all over to mow lawns. When he wasn't detailing a vehicle, then he was mowing the lawn, and eventually, at the age of 16, started working at a job where he was quickly known as the best worker, constantly receiving compliments from customers, management, and peers. At his visitation, his family, friends, co-workers, and customers came from all over. There were hundreds of people that attended his visitation. At his funeral, it was standing room only. I tell you these things so you can get an idea of just who he was and how many people's lives he affected. Colton would immediately light a room when he entered it. He had a heart of gold. He always wanted to see the best in everyone. That trait of his was both a blessing and a curse at times. He was an avid animal advocate. He was an honor roll student his entire school career, achieving many scholastic honors and awards. He loved family gatherings. He played t-ball, baseball, basketball, and soccer. He was homecoming king of his senior class. He was a volunteer at the local nursing home where I worked, attended and helped with many different fundraisers, attended numerous charity events, and would always root for the underdog in any situation.
And here's the turning point. The moment the story shifts from life to tragedy, what started as a hopeful move becomes, in hindsight, the worst mistake. It raises a chilling thought. How often do life-altering dangers look completely normal at first?
He truly cared about other people. His first trip here to Florida was when he was 3 years old. We went to Disney World, and he immediately fell in love with Florida. He later had the opportunity to go on vacation with his grandparents and aunt to Florida several times during school breaks. Once he turned 18, he and some of his friends would come to Florida on vacation. When Colton turned 23, he decided that he wanted to move to Florida. This was in 2020 when the restaurant he worked at closed due to COVID. Florida was his favorite vacation spot. He did not really have a solid plan other than knowing a few people in the area he was moving to, and he felt he would not have a problem getting a job as a server. Unfortunately, this move proved to be the worst mistake Colton would make, other than meeting the individual, Brennan Lakey, who took his life. In both February 2021 and July 2021, I came to Florida to spend time with Colton. Both times I went in hopes of showing him how much he was loved and supported and to make sure he was okay, needing to see it for myself. All I wanted was for him to come to the decision to move back home. He felt he still wanted to live in Florida and give living there a little longer to see if it worked out. He lived with his friend Chandler at that time, and I knew she was a good person whom I could trust. Unfortunately, after my visit in July is when things started spiraling once he met Brennan Lakey. It was within just a few days of me leaving that Colton met him online.
This part is critical. Legally, statements like he was afraid and try to leave can directly challenge any claim of self-defense. If the victim was attempting to escape, it undermines the idea that the defendant was in danger. These details matter a lot.
Colton called to tell me about him, and at first things seemed fine. Brennan had his own vehicle, his own home, a job, and seemed to not want for anything. At least that was the picture he painted to Colton. I'm certain this was appealing to Colton because he had the companionship of a new friend. I spoke to Brennan on the phone a few weeks after he and Colton met. He told me how much he cared for Colton, and as a mother, of course, I was very skeptical, especially since they had seemed to become so close so fast. I warned Colton to please be careful, as this person seemed to be too good to be true. The immediate vibe I got from him was con artist. The relationship quickly became what I would describe as toxic. As time went on, Colton told me he was afraid of Brennan and of Brennan's father and an uncle. Of course, this upset me extremely, and I kept reiterating him to get away from him. Brennan had some type of hold on him, and I assumed that was through him providing drugs and a place to stay.
This is the emotional core of the entire statement. And while the law focuses on charges like manslaughter versus murder, this is a human cost behind those legal definitions. Final question for you. When a verdict doesn't match the family's sense of justice, is closure even possible?
Our last phone conversation, other than texting, Colton said he was getting away from Brennan and that he was going to move back home. I told him my husband and I would help him as we had always done. I will never be able to forget the night a police officer came to my home to tell me my son was found dead in a hotel room in Sarasota, Florida. As I typed this letter, I can still feel the pain in my stomach and the immediate shock I went into. I felt as if a hole had just been ripped right through the middle of my heart. I was in denial. This could not be true. This is what I kept telling myself. That was on December 9th, 2021 at 11:30 p.m. All I wanted to do was get on a plane and go see my son, my baby, whom I love with every ounce of my being. I just wanted to see him and to hold him. I remember calling my husband, telling him to get home from work, and then my son Clayton telling him to come to the house right away. Those moments still haunt me and seem unreal. That was by far the worst night of my entire life. I then called Brennan Lakey's cell number, which I had programmed in my phone. I knew right away it was him without even being told. My intuition knew it. I was in total shock. I didn't even know why I did that, other than to scream into the phone asking him what had he done to Colton. The way that Colton's death has affected me has been beyond traumatic. I do not sleep well. I have horrible dreams. I am sad, angry, upset, and miserable many times. My work has suffered. I've had to take weeks of my life off from my job due to these trips back and forth to Florida for hearings, meetings, and for my own mental health. My relationships are not what they used to be. I went from being a happy and outgoing person to being withdrawn, depressed, and unhappy much of the time. I think about Colton constantly. I worry if he knew just how much I loved him. I worry if he knew just how many family members and friends loved him who are grieving this tragic loss. Was Colton perfect? No one is. He had his share of mistakes like we all do. I do know that by his life being taken in such a horrendous and horrific way, that the void in my life feels as if I will never find complete happiness again. I still wait to receive a text, a phone call, or to see a post online from him. You always hear of parents who lose a child and wonder how they even go on with their own life. Now I am that parent. Every single day of my life, I have to live with the fact knowing that a smug, arrogant, entitled individual thought he could get away with murdering my son and that he would not be caught or that he could buy his way out of it, as he loved to brag to people about. Brennan Wakey is not what he loves to portray himself to be. He does not deserve to ever be released from prison. He is a despicable human being who deserves life in prison without the possibility of parole, but unfortunately, since he received the verdict of manslaughter and tampering with evidence instead of murder in the second degree, that is not what he will receive. I ask, though, why should he ever be given any freedom? The only thing he deserves is to be behind bars to think about what he did to my son, someone he claimed to love and care about every single day for the rest of his life. He has had 4 years of freedom. I ask that Brennan Wakey receive the 30-year maximum sentence for manslaughter and the 5-year maximum sentence for tampering with evidence. I have waited 4 years to sit before you, Brennan Wakey, to look you in your face so you can say the pain that you have caused me. Unfortunately, I am well aware that you have zero remorse for killing my son, Colton John Wright. If you had, you would not have shot him, stole his laptop and cell phone, and fled from the Hyatt Hotel to then flee to your home and your father's home and then lie about it all. Let us also not forget that the gun you murdered him with has never been found. A person with a soul and who was remorseful would have immediately called 911. But no, you chose to be the conniving little coward you are and always will be, and killed my son, shooting him in the face and then firing a second shot. I have had to endure 4 years of your tauntings on social media posts, bragging that you were going to be even more famous than Kim Kardashian and Casey Anthony, and watching you in person and via Zoom use your best acting skills to act as if you were the victim. You disgrace me and you are appalling. You may sit there in your orange jumpsuit looking the part of a person who claims he was defending himself, but you and I both know you are nothing other than a cold-blooded, arrogant, entitled little person who thought you would get away with killing Colton. I would love to know what went on in that sick and twisted mind of yours. Did you really think that no one would catch you? I am 100% convinced that part of you hated the fact that you had zero friends and Colton was loved and adored by everyone. I specifically remember asking Colton if you and he ever hung out with any of your friends, and he said you did not have any friends other than anyone he introduced you to, but none of them liked you because you acted possessive and jealous and made them nervous, always carrying a gun and making sure they all knew it. You and your defense team have tried to pull every little trick and delay you and they could think of for 4 years. I have had to just wait and wait for this day to arrive to let you know that not only in my eyes and everyone who loved Colton, that you are nothing short of a walking, breathing monster who I hope suffers every single day of your miserable life. You have had the privilege of walking the streets and living your life after killing Colton, all while my family and I have suffered in agony, never getting to see or talk to him again. You have celebrated your birthdays and holidays, things we will never get to do with Colton again. One thing that did bring me a little bit of joy recently was knowing you were behind bars on your most recent 30th birthday, a milestone, but most likely still with that smug look on your pathetic face thinking you didn't deserve to be there. You love to wave your gun around and act like a tough guy to try to prove that you had power over Colton. I know this not only through my son, but through others, but look at you, you're nothing but a little man who is going to be well-liked in prison, I have no doubt. You won't have that gun to wave around and protect yourself then. Your obsession with my son was evident, and by you trying to paint him out to be something other than someone you took full advantage of is sick and twisted just like you. You are not some Ivy League Boy Scout that you like to portray yourself to be. I know...
Your Honor,
I am almost done.
I'm going to object to this
Let's let her finish.
I am almost done.
characterization.
Ma'am, hold on.
You're evil, vindictive.
Hold on, please. I have the ability to consider and not consider. Much of this I will not consider in my decision-making process, as the law would not permit it. Please continue and finish.
I'm almost finished, Your Honor. You are evil, vindictive, and conniving. May you rot in hell for eternity, and may every moment for the rest of your miserable life be spent living in fear, just as my son lived his final moments with his cell phone in his hand, having enough bravery and mindfulness to take photos of you, the monster that killed him. I am a Christian, and as Christians we are taught to forgive others, but I can promise you that will never happen when it comes to you. I loathe you with every ounce of my being and will never forgive you, Brennan Wakey. Amy Thompson, mother of Colton Wright. Thank you, Your Honor.